So, everyone, let's start with the most important on-chain data. The balance on exchanges, my friends, has dropped to the lowest level in 7 years. The last time we had so few assets on exchanges was in 2018. And listen, this is quite an interesting situation because it could mean that all the long-term holders are actually sending their bitcoins to wallets. I interpret this in such a way that right now we have already bought individuals who should have been bought. Everything above that will be the street that will start buying again at the peaks. Bought. Street buys, room for new investors. Everything above that will be the street that will start buying again at the peaks. So there will be room again to cut out new investors in the market. In my opinion, it's just so expensive now that it would be hard to throw a large volume onto the exchange right now for that price to suddenly shoot up impulsively. I'm not saying it can't happen. However, for some big impulses, I don't think we can count on that in the near future. Of course, interpreting this chart exclusively. At this moment, we see the Bitcoin Euphoria Zone and the Euphoria Zone indicator, which has so far almost perfectly always shown us the peaks on the chart and predicted corrections. It has stopped shining, my dear. This means that the light has gone out, and it actually means that according to this indicator, the top has been broken. And right now we're making a correction. Of course we can't. Suggesting based on an indicator. This is an additional confluence. In the second part, I'll show important spots on the charts. This could indicate a short-term correction or the start of larger corrections. I wouldn't advise speculating here. In any case, this could indicate either a short-term correction before breaking the second arm or actually the start of some larger corrections. For now, I personally wouldn't advise speculating here. I'm currently shorting from around $105,000 and a bit. I'm trying to catch that peak. Of course it can be cut. This is of course. However, the whole moon management and position sizing, at this moment I'm pretty well secured. I think the charts are heavily pumped. I believe that of course the whole positive narrative in the United States and what's happening in the world could suggest increases. However, in my opinion this bubble is inflated at this moment even looking at this. How will the dollar behave? How much will Trump want to weaken the dollar to make it cheaper? Good business. There are many situations that could indicate that we don't necessarily need a pump in cryptocurrencies. Right now, after Trump's inauguration, at this moment we see Bitcoin futures open interest versus price change. We are currently in the spot rally zone, which is where we have the black dot. The current increases are healthy, because they are definitely being pushed by the spot, which is quite strange to me. Because what? You have to be crazy to buy Bitcoin at the peaks, and such a situation can happen, that Bitcoin will soar at those 116, 130,000. We don't know if these are long-term holders or short-term holders. However, even if there are no bugs in Bitcoin or altcoins at the moment, buying like that forcefully doesn't make much sense to me. I would rather wait for local corrections on Bitcoin before loading up on it. Of course, altcoins are still at good prices. Some altcoins, because not all of them. However, in my opinion, Bitcoin is already relatively expensive. At this moment we see, listen, Bitcoin futures, open interest has gone through a correction, just like we talked about in the last episodes, and even though we bounced back on it, we are currently close to it. ATH, when it comes to open interest, we have many fewer open orders than before. So people are no longer jumping in just because it's rising, which is actually a good, healthy sign, because it means that a larger portion of people is starting to be aware of this market. However, this will definitely not be a good sign for the bulls because this open interest, or let's say colloquially, the market interest, is currently just quite weak, which could obviously suggest some intentions for declines on the chart or profit-taking by certain individuals. However, at this moment, I believe that the market cannot be clearly defined. Right now we have a bit of a decisive moment. We are close to levels that will tell us whether we want to continue the bull market and break new highs or not. However, we rather want to correct. We can pay attention to what I will show you on the charts, the whole new ATH that has been broken. It actually left an SFP, which is a swing failure pattern. That is a bearish pattern. Anyway, we'll get to the charts. I'll explain everything to you. Capital rotation, net position change. Money is continuously flowing out of Ethereum, although these outflows, they are decreasing gently, my dear ones. However, as I said, this is not good for Ethereum, it's not good for altcoins either. However, for me, this whole money flow has already been quite heavily disrupted by the situation in the United States, due to the situation with Trump and other members of the Trump family. As well as, actually, a rather strange euphoria, maybe not strange, because the euphoria around memecoins was organized in a quite specific way. At this moment, there has been a slight influx of Tether. However, Bitcoin is still here. It will lead way. Are we actually going to get it? Legit alt season. Time will tell. If someone isn't packed from a year or two ago or just bought at good prices, I advise being careful right now when buying altcoins at their peaks. Of course, I think this alt season is great. If it appeared, I would also be happy if these few X's on the wallet also appeared. However, I'm a realist, and I don't trade or invest based on wishful thinking. I just look at what's happening at the moment, and right now, many altcoins are already quite highly valued. Of course, they are still cheap, but these are actually altcoins that I don't necessarily want in my portfolio. Stablecoin, net, position change. We also have a slight inflow from the tables to the market, meaning there is buying capital. The question, my dear friends, is how long will it last? And this buying capital is the kind of capital that will be able to push the cryptocurrency market even higher. Will these be some local purchases? Which, in fact, with hindsight, will not have any greater significance and a bigger impact strictly on Bitcoin's valuation. Bitcoin ETFs are seeing increases, meaning people are buying. Funds like ByBit, BlackRock's fund, will buy Bitcoins to match incoming capital into ETFs. Recent increases may be focused on this. Based on Bitcoin, it will be buying up those Bitcoins because it needs to acquire them specifically for the incoming street capital into the ETFs. So it's possible that some of the increases we've seen in recent days will be focused on that. This is currently also caused by inflows into Bitcoin ETFs. This week on Forex Factory, my dear friends, we have the FOMC. And it could be significant, important elements, important events, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So on Wednesday, we have the federal funds rate meeting. Will this be priced in on Monday and Tuesday? Of course, usually such meetings are priced in earlier. The question is, what about Powell? What about the fact that Trump wants to replace him? Will Powell's words matter? They actually had any significance in this market. Advanced GDP, my dear friends, so maybe. This week we'll see a bit of movement in the market, which is what I'm really hoping for. That something will happen because the weekend, the last few days after breaking the ATH, have been quite calm. It's building up to maybe a bigger impulsive move. Which way? Time will tell. Let everyone bet on what they think is appropriate. But above all, secure your positions. Always with stop losses, good position sizing so that those stop losses just collect you. It didn't hurt. And now, my dear friends, we come to the core of this episode, the most important part, which is the charts. The plan for the charts, the plan for Bitcoin, for altcoins, what's happening there and what these charts are really showing us at this moment. Well, my dear friends, everything that's happening in the market we can see right now on the chart. I wanted to say right away that the day started off well during my last live trading session that you could have watched on YouTube. It was available to everyone, that's why I encourage you to subscribe, because how will you have a subscription so you won't miss these live sessions? And during the live session, we actually played out this trade. At this moment, as you can see on the screen, there's a profit of $27,000 on my personal account. Right now, I've closed 50% of that position at the level I mentioned, where I said I would actually take my first take profit. The stop loss has now been moved to break even, and the second take profit is around $92,000. If of course there is one. The situation will happen. And my dear friends, if you want to support this channel, register on the ByBit exchange using the link below. This will of course support my work and help in creating a community for you in the near future so that you can benefit from my analyses, use my trades, and meet each other to talk about the cryptocurrency market. And it will be one of the best communities you can join, because I already have one community in Poland with almost 30,000 users on amazing activities, with a lot of charts, live trades, live sessions, etc., etc. So, wait, because something big is coming soon. If we look at Bitcoin right now, I would say on a local scale, we obviously have a local demand zone here from which we could potentially try to recover. Currently, definitely, the level of $102,500. So probably during this, for the recording, maybe not during, but after the recording. I'm going to try a small long position here. This is quite an interesting spot. Locally, we are indeed leaving an SFP pattern here, which is a swing failure pattern. In my opinion, we could make that attempt on Monday. If at night China dropped the whole price on us. As we can see, let's go to the 4-hour chart, and we can see exactly what hours this was happening. So, my dear friends, quite an interesting situation. Good for me. Well, was the position played out according to what we had planned? When it comes to a more long-term look at Bitcoin, let's take a look at the fact that we had an ATH here. However, for me, it didn't make sense. ATH, it was mainly about leaving the swing failure pattern, which is one of the stronger patterns that fakes an eventual move. Where everyone was probably going long on the breakout, they were almost immediately taken out. Look, how this candle has, so to speak, been eaten, actually below this. The body of our Doge candle. We didn't really have a close no candle, which could mean that from here, we will see further declines in cryptocurrencies. Remember, none of this is guaranteed, right? These are probabilities. These are the places you should consider. By the way, a lot of people in the comments were laughing, saying, "What are you talking about, Stasiak? We won't drop below 100,000. We won't get any correction. We're going to the moon." And I'm asking, where is that moon? Even my mother-in-law doesn't know that. So my dear friends, we also need to look at the sentiment here. If everyone is saying that we're going to rise, that no correction will happen, and everyone is loading up on longs, everyone is buying on the spot, then sooner or later there will be a long squeeze or a liquidation. Such a street has to happen, so try not to be the street but rather play along with the whales. Where others have stop losses, that's where we enter. Where everyone is shouting that we're going to the moon, we take into account that a correction might happen. So on Bitcoin, my dear friends, at this moment, I'll probably be playing a local short, a very short one. Long. Short 50% still in position until we fill this biggest liquidity, which is here between $91,500 and $88,500 on Bitcoin. This is quite an important zone. If we break through and close above $98,500 below the unshared VWAP, which I think is quite important here, the probability of further declines will be high, so you need to pay attention to that. Remember, always secure your positions with sensible stop losses. Never leave your positions unprotected, because a situation like this will happen here, and you'll just be in a pretty weak position. What do we see when we look at Bitcoin's dominance? We can see quite an interesting situation. And actually, there's a divergence between the charts, because here we have Bitcoin's dominance. We do not receive any corrections at all. See, Bitcoin's dominance is still in pretty good shape, in a pretty good place. That's why I'm probably securing my short position. I'll be hedging it with a long on Bitcoin, so I don't waste time if a situation arises where we just have to deal with Bitcoin. My friends, we might be looking at a situation where Bitcoin could, so to speak, go back up, trying to regain that level. I'm not going to waste time on my short. My friends, we're trying to go back up, so to speak, and regain that level. I'm not going to waste time on my short, which is currently at a breakpoint right here. Even. I'm just going to start actively making money from the long position that I'm going to open. When it comes to Total 3, look at what's happening here. An incredible drop, or rather an outflow of money from altcoins probably into Bitcoin. Because, if Total 3 is dropping and the market cap of altcoins is shrinking, that money is strictly flowing into Bitcoin. For now, in my opinion, they're flowing out from everywhere, meaning they're coming off altcoins. They're actually coming off Bitcoin. You can't really see them anywhere. They entered sensibly. I'll post the analysis of Ethereum on Discord today, so make sure to join in. It will be based on the poll, meaning there's a daily poll on which coin I analyze, and every day on Discord, in the patron zone, I share the analysis that you chose. So we'll take a look at that strictly on Discord, which is a very interesting situation. Listen, on Bitcoin, however, if we take a look at S, which is Phantom, there are strong drops. I'm a bit disappointed. Such significant drops, however, this is the crypto market. It's all about securing yourself. In this matter, I did it myself. So we'll see how it plays out in the lottery. Actually, my friends, when it comes to what's happening in the market right now, if someone has been waiting for certain levels, they are definitely appearing. The question is whether these are the levels that will actually allow us to keep rising. And the horse hasn't ended yet, which we hope is true. Is this the beginning of a bigger correction? Each of you has to make a decision. Clant is also in a pretty interesting spot. If we don't break out of this parallel channel, there might be a reclaim around $117. However, now, when the knives are falling the hardest in the market, you should be careful and avoid jumping in recklessly into individual coins, into individual projects that you wanted to buy. Of course, when we talk about spot trading and the DCA method, which is the partial buying of individual coins, why not? If you have your levels, then of course, go ahead and realize them. If you have your plan, then go ahead and execute it. I'm personally waiting when it comes to purchases. Today, the area around 32 cents on Algorand also looks quite tasty. When it comes to XRP, finally, for those who have been buying it, this is what I have. They were waiting somewhere. For the correction, it broke below $3. I'm personally still holding on to my holdings, waiting for much lower levels for potential buying. However, the dollar is slowly bouncing back. What do you think about what's happening with Trump and his desire to weaken the dollar? At this moment, to do good business with a cheap dollar, we'll see if there will be any local spikes. And actually, Trump's coin, or rather the dollar, because it's the same thing, is laughing. It will drop below $4 to my buying zone around approximately 3.91. However, the degradation in cryptocurrencies due to a silly little bull run on memecoins, unfortunately, it has messed up our actions a bit. This is, my dears, normal. This is the crypto market. In the crypto market, anything is possible, and just like many people laugh about it. No, up and down in the episode, nothing new, but that's what this market is about. It's about being able to mark out a bullish scenario, a bearish scenario, to set yourself a higher probability. One of the two scenarios and just play it out. And not say that someone is showing two paths somewhere, because that's exactly how you should trade. That's exactly how you should interpret the market, because we never have certainty whether something will go up or down, even when we do. An incredibly strong trend. And amazing news in the market, like right now. Amazing news in the market. Decrees about cryptocurrencies, signed, etc., etc. And what's happening here? We get a correction and suddenly no one knows what's going on. And those who are preparing for two scenarios know what to do, because they had a plan ready for it beforehand. And they are simply making money in this market, whether through shorts or by not being afraid to fill their buying zones. After such corrections, that happened today, my dear. And now, my dears, we move on to the most important market news that are really hot. So listen up, because they can have a direct impact on the valuation of cryptocurrencies in the coming days and weeks. My dears, let's start with Trump. Finally, the cryptocurrency sector has awaited an event that they have been waiting for many weeks, namely, sworn in. The President of the USA, Donald Trump, signed an executive order regarding cryptocurrencies. This order mandates the administration to establish a friendly policy towards the industry, to develop the cryptocurrency sector in the United States, and to explore the possibility of creating a national reserve in cryptocurrencies. Will it happen? Time will tell if this is bullish, and it will actually push the market, we'll see. However, just looking at the chart from what we see, that's the market. Despite everything, he didn't take that information with Euphoria. Maybe it's not about Euphoria, but rather a premature valuation of the fact that Trump simply wins. We did get a move up, but in my opinion, it's not sufficiently large enough to slightly, in my view. It could have been if it had already been announced that the USA is buying crypto as a national reserve, and not that they are investigating. Is that even possible? Because research, my dear friends, doesn't always end positively. They can also end in failure. And the question is, wasn't this precisely Trump's action? Gaining supremacy in cryptocurrency, and then saying that research unfortunately found that it makes no sense. The order, listen, states that the federal government will protect Americans from persecution. If they develop software, were miners or validators, or otherwise conducted transactions for legal purposes, do they simply have a business related to crypto and from now on won't have any issues because of it? Just like it was when the head of the SEC was none other than Gary Gensler. This regulation created a new state office to address crypto regulations, modify or repeal them, and report recommendations. What I've told you so far is that it also needs to identify all regulations currently concerning cryptocurrencies within 30 days. Recommend modifications or repeal of these regulations within 60 days, and submit a report with new recommendations within 180 days. What is very important, my dears, is also that Trump's new regulation prohibits work on the creation of a U.S. central bank currency. His administration states that agencies under his supervision cannot, these are literal words, cannot take any actions to establish the issuance or programming of a CBDC in the jurisdiction of the United States or abroad. What the hell is this? Trump and Melania coin. MicroStrategy, my dear friends. On Tuesday, MicroStrategy held its annual shareholders meeting where very important decisions were made. MicroStrategy proposed on Friday 2 weeks ago and voted on Tuesday for significant changes to its corporate charter. To increase the authorized common shares to 33 billion and preferred shares to over 1 billion. So I guess MicroStrategy's shares won't rise that quickly. Looking at how quickly they are issuing new shares, this is a huge increase compared to the previously existing 330 million common shares and 5 million preferred shares. The acceptance of the new rules gives MicroStrategy the ability to have more shares in circulation. Of course, less than all except for the 4 largest members of the index. The Nasdaq 100, which includes Nvidia Corporation, Apple Corporation, Alphabet, and Amazon.com. MicroStrategy plans to use shares for private transactions, market sales, and settling bond conversions. Despite tax issues with the IRS, its Bitcoin holdings are worth $47 billion, with $18 billion in unrealized gains. And everything, listen, beautifully, although dark clouds have gathered over Saylor's company, namely taxes and the IRS, which is the tax office. Its Bitcoin holdings are worth $47 billion, including $18 billion in unrealized profits. They put her in the crosshairs of the American alternative minimum tax for individuals, known as CAMT. This tax, listen, enacted under the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, could force the company to pay federal income taxes on paper gains, not even selling a single Bitcoin. Traditional investment gains are not taxed until the assets are sold. However, CAMT, which is this law aimed at preventing companies from aggressively recognizing profits while minimizing taxable income, applies a 15% tax rate to adjusted profits in financial statements. So you could say it's a tough break for Sailor. Applies a 15% tax rate to adjusted profits in financial statements. So you could say it's a tough break for Sailor. The IRS obviously made an exception to this rule. And these regulations do not apply to Berkshire Hathaway, of course. However, at this moment, no exceptions have been made to this rule for companies in the crypto industry. This means that if the IRS under Trump doesn't change the regulations, MicroStrategy will have to pay several billion in federal taxes starting in 2026. My dear federal tax dollars, what could be the first nail in the coffin for these sick valuations and the overvaluation of the company? MicroStrategy. Let's move on, my dears, for a moment to RUNE, to the cryptocurrency project. RUNE, or rather this token, on Friday, it dropped by 36% after it was revealed that the inter-blockchain settlement protocol THORChain suspended BTC and ETH withdrawals in its lending and savings programs to prevent potential insolvency risks. And the network validators proposed and implemented a 90-day break in the early Asian hours on Friday to create and to implement a plan to address the debt issues. The lending problem with THORChain only involves Bitcoin and Ethereum, but its savings vaults support multiple assets. A potentially possible insolvency situation might potentially arise if all credit and savings positions were closed, and paid off, of course, at exactly the same time. So if market sentiment also caused a sharp drop in that token run. One more thing, my dear. The information, namely ETFs. Last week, new applications for launching ETF products appeared on the government SEC website, and there wouldn't be anything amazing about it. Listen, if it weren't for the fact that these potential ETFs were supposed to be launched, my dear, about memecoins, this is official information. I repeat. 2 companies, Rex Financial and Osprey Funds, submitted an application to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission on Tuesday for the approval to launch ETFs on Trump Longi tokens and Doge. As you all know, CC is now under Trump's control. And not just any, which means he definitely has the ability to accept such madness. Conclusion. The question, however, is where is the kind of boundary of normalcy in this market? Because I'm starting to claim that it probably just doesn't exist. Of course, a product is a product, business is business, but still giving clients retail access to memecoins, which are one of the more volatile assets in the world. Instead of projects that actually have real applications and are very strong, fundamentally, it won't lead us to get a legitimate, normal alt season. And it's also worth mentioning, my dear, that on January 25th, we were supposed to find out the SEC's decision regarding the launch of ETFs on Solana, and we obviously didn't receive such information, which is very strange because Saturday was supposed to be their deadline. And my dear, that's all for today's market update. Give a thumbs up, subscription. Of course, if you liked the episode, let me know in the comments what you think, especially about the news, because for me, they are super important. So my dear friends, once again, I warmly invite all of you to Discord. Thank you for taking the time to watch this episode, and we'll talk again soon. So take care for now. See you later.